So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I want a zigga zaga. All right. My name is Ed, and today we have Astro City number 12 from 1997. Kurt Busiek and Brent Anderson, with also inks by Will Blyberg and Gary Martin. And of course, a nice little cover by Alex Ross. Basically, what's going on here, well, for people who don't know, Astro City was more or less a kind of almost anthology-like series of Kurt's that basically took kind of a different look at different superhero and superhero type characters in a fictional city of Astro City. I think I remember reading somewhere, and I hope I don't mess it up, where Kurt kind of describes it as, you know, it's a typical superhero comic, but where most superhero comics focus on the big battle on the street, a lot of the stories here kind of focus on that same battle, but what's going on just around the corner from that. So basically, it's the big, crazy, larger-than-life superheroes, but giving that human element to it as well. You know, it's the sort of thing that you saw in his Marvel's work and stuff like that. This particular issue focuses on a character called Jack of Hearts, and while it's not necessarily Jack of Hearts, Jack in the Box. I'm sorry, Jack of Hearts is a completely different character. This is Jack in the Box, and Jack in the Box is kind of a play on that whole archetype of you know, the kind of acrobatic, urban, street level superhero, you know, kind of like, you know, old Spider-Man, 60s and 70s, Daredevil, you know, the guy that's fighting thugs, bank robbers, cracking jokes, doing somersaults and things like that. Like I said, he's not a direct parody or swipe of either of those characters, but he kind of fits in that mold. Jack in the Box's real name is Zachary Johnson, and previously he was out doing his thing, so on and so forth, and he ran across a couple of guys who seemed to be evil versions of himself. They were evil Jack in the Boxes, and the big twist was, or not the big twist, but one twist is these guys claimed to be from the future, and they claim to be his sons from the future, you know. And, you know, he catches them and so on and so forth, and he thinks everything is fine, maybe not, but it does shake him up a little bit. And then he goes home to his wife, and then his wife tells him, you know, honey, I'm pregnant. And that really kind of like shakes him up a bit. So basically, with this particular issue is, this is Zachary, you know, trying to come to grips of, like, now what does he do? What does he do as a superhero? What does he do as a potential new father, you know? Are the things that these two guys say, are they true? Were they messing with him? Will he really give birth to these evil versions of himself? Even if he doesn't, you know, what does this mean for his superhero career? Should he continue to be a superhero? You know, shouldn't he be there for his wife? Shouldn't he be there for his kids? Does he need to give this up? He thinks he's doing good as Jack in the Box. He thinks he's doing good things for the city and community, but what's he really doing? Is he really making the world any better place, or is he doing it for himself? And you know, you know, it has to do with him dealing with his own feelings about his own father and things like that. Without giving too much away, Jack does run into another person that gives him some food for thought, or a couple other people that give him food for thought for different reasons, and he ends up making a decision. And I don't want to say it's a good decision or a bad decision. I don't want to give away if it's a happy ending or not, but it's one of those things that you think, you know, kind of makes sense within two ways. Within the sense of what a person in that situation would do, plus within the bigger superhero tropes and conventions that we're all kind of used to now after, you know, however many years of Marvel and DC characters and you know, legacy characters and things like that. I thought this story was a really good. It didn't blow my socks off or anything like that. But I did like the direction it went in. I really like the fact that, you know, Kurt tried to engage you emotionally and intellectually, as well as, the other, fights and fun and things like that were going on in that comic. And in an interesting way, it's actually a lot more adult than a lot of stories that we get out of superhero comics today. That is, it's adult in the sense that it is featuring, it's featuring a superhero, but it's featuring a superhero who's a grown man, and he has to deal with the type of problems and issues that adults, deal with, are things that either you've dealt with or friends of yours have dealt with, or things that you just have to confront. I might be living this lifestyle that's fine for me in my 20s, but 10 years later, is this the sort of thing I should be doing? What sort of responsibility do I have to my family? What sort of responsibility do I have to the community? What sort of legacy am I going to leave behind? Those sort of things. And those are the things that real adults deal with in a real life, as opposed to sort of things that some people inject into, mainstream superheroes and try to tell you that they're adult, but it's really, how much blood we can get away with, or how much, TNA we can stick into, this cartoon character or whatever, I'm not against either of those things, but, there's a difference between being, not safe for kids versus actually being adult, and then there's a difference between being adult and being mature. And I actually believe this is a superhero comic book that actually tries to be mature in a real sort of way. We have some really nice art by Brent Anderson, industry veteran. I don't know what to say, just really great. You can see how he's been influenced by, some of the greats of yesteryear. You look at his art, you can see a little bit of Neil Adams in there, a little bit of John Buscema, a little bit of, any number of artists, but not so much that it's a copy of any one person's style, and nice simple layouts, easy to follow, excellent draftsmanship. When he does a city scene or a city scene, he's able to put those buildings in there, and he's able to give you some 2-point perspective when he draws the inside of Zachary's house. It looks real. I mean, it looks like somebody's living room. Same thing when he draws civilians. He's able to draw regular people wearing normal clothes, and it all works. And of course, where it counts, when it's time to do superhero stuff, acrobatic stuff, fight stuff, all that stuff is fun and exciting as well. That leads to another thing that, like I said, a lot of stories that Kurt dealt with in this series, they weren't deconstructionist stories or satires on superheroes or dark stories or edgy stories per se. They were kind of stories that you weren't necessarily getting in mainstream superhero comics, but I think the thing that's really interesting is the only reason you couldn't really do these stories is because, well, there is no reason you couldn't have been doing these particular stories the way that Kurt was doing them. It's just that, they weren't doing them for whatever reason. A story like this could very easily be done with at the time the Barry Allen Flash was dead, but you could still do that story with Barry Allen and Iris, dealing, with their marriage and potential children. Same thing with the Wally West Flash and his wife. Same thing with Spider-Man and Mary Jane. There's no reason why this story couldn't have been done in those comics, and maybe you might have had to change the end a bit or twist it a little bit, just because, you have your big characters, your big heroes. They can change a little bit, but they can't, you can't break the formula that's making them successful. But at the same time, there's no reason you couldn't have done this same story with any number of Marvel or DC's, second tier characters, you know what I mean? And, for all the talk, once again, of making superhero comics more sophisticated, it seems it's unfortunate that in certain ways, we back away from that. We're undoing people's marriages. We'll put TNA in it, but we won't deal with sex in a realistic way, and things like that. Like I said, there's no reason that you can't step outside the box a bit, and some of the stories that were in Astro City really didn't step out of the box that much, that they, like I said, that, oh no, you can never do that. It's just that for whatever reason, they were kind of semi-obvious or maybe not so obvious stories that could be done, but just weren't being done, and to save, the genre, even if we just stick it to not even the broader superhero, industry or comic book industry, but just to invigorate the genre, every once in a while, it bodes well to kind of tweak things or to do that story that nobody else is doing, But I guess that's it. I gotta thank you very much. Tell me what you think, and everybody have a great day.